Woe is me. Shame and scandal in the family. Woe.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Nikki, Aurora, and from me. Without further ado, I am going to plunge right in, if I have Aurora's permission, with what Ginny has to say. Ginny S. says, Lady C, why won't King Charles issue a statement that Harry and Meghan do not represent the royal family and are not to be HRH? This would trump the two posers. Well, Ginny S., this has already been done by the late Queen. So I don't think I am being out of line when I say that the King basically feels there's no need to hammer home the point. It has already been made, and people don't need to be reminded of it constantly. I do think that the whole situation is being allowed to slide in ways that could potentially end up causing problems for the royal family. But I suppose if they make another announcement to that effect, it would be regarded in certain quarters as antagonistic, needlessly antagonistic. The reality is that the family has been outmaneuvered and trounced from the word go, because they have tried to manage a situation that is completely unmanageable. And I'm not sure that they have been doing all that they could do and all that they should do. But I understand their reasoning, which is really very simple. Give them enough rope to hang themselves with, and they are doing a superb job of it. The fact that Harry and Meghan create constant ructions isn't going to stop. How many times are they going to have, the royal family is, when I say they, how many times is the royal family going to have to announce that Harry and Meghan do not represent them and that they are not to be addressed as HRH? It's been done. I don't think they need to keep on doing it. You think that would trump the two posers? It would create more news. It would give them the opportunity to fight back because they were being victimized. And there would be a new wave of, poor me, look at me, I'm such a victim. I'm a victim, I'm a victim. Meg, I'm a real victim. Doria, let us celebrate with some superb weed. Doria, great stuff. I hope that answers the question. It is an ongoing problem to which there is no easy solution. And the reality is, in a situation like this, it's like dealing with the sea. The wave crashes on the shore, the sea recedes, another wave comes, crashes on the shore. You can hold up your hand as much as you want and say, waves, stop. It's not going to stop as long as the sea exists. Now you begin to see why the old-fashioned way had a degree of not only finality, but purposeful intervention to prevent the perpetuation of a problem. But we're not in Tudor times. We're not in Stuart times. We're not in Plantagenet times. And I'm afraid Harry isn't the Duke of Clarence. Oh, the Malmsey. Chris CBMHXY says, Dear Lady C, do you think all the attacks on our beautiful Princess of Wales are designed to break her mentally? Not a bad point. To be able to destabilize William as well? In my opinion, it could be reverse psychology. Meghan and Harry fail at everything which they touch by design, while all the time the goal is to break the one link that could send William into a total world of hurt. Another thing, can Stockholm Syndrome be done from a distance? It seems like they are trying to get rid of all the royals in all countries due to the fact that they cannot have countries who have the monarchy as a tier of governance. A president can be corrupted or placed in the mix, and world dominance can happen. When you look at the Commonwealth, it is the biggest bloc in the world. Unless it can be controlled without affiliation to monarchy, both by being head of state or members, they cannot place who they want in positions and or corrupt politicians. It feels like there is a whole other war going on to gain world dominance, and I don't see it as a conspiracy theory. I see it as laying this issue on the table and looking at it from all sides. The Princess of Wales is so beautiful from the inside, and her and William and their children need to be very diligent on who they let close to them, I say. Hugs to you and the ladies in fur coats. Very interesting way of thinking. I think you're covering so much ground that I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer the whole thing, because I think it would take a week to answer it thoroughly. There is no doubt that Catherine is a hate figure in certain areas in California. Let's put it that way. Is it designed to break William? No. I think it's an expression of frustration that Catherine is everything Meghan would like to have been and can never be. I think it's as simple as that. And I'm sure a happy outcome from certain points of view would be the utter devastation and possibly even expiration of Catherine, so that she vacated the stage. But is it designed to break her mentally? I don't think so. But then I find it difficult to put myself too fully in the shoes of the Meghans of this world, because that degree of rage and malice is something that I'm afraid I can't summon up very easily, if at all. Yes, there are power struggles going on. There have always been power struggles, and there will always be power struggles. We happen to be living in a very interesting time when there is a degree of incompetence that is truly frightening, and there is a degree of unrealism that is truly staggering. And I think if we are not very careful, we are going to be shoved into a massive conflagration, quite possibly a third world war. I find David Cameron's actions truly chilling. He was irresponsible in proposing the vote for Scotland. He has proposed a series of endeavours that have been truly, truly frightening. And I think his latest foray as a foreign secretary is extremely chilling. He is ratcheting up the ante in a totally unacceptable way, which could result in all of us suffering. He's just one of many. The issue is too complex, and we could discuss it for 6 years and not exhaust the subject. So, as for getting rid of monarchy, yes, elected politicians are far more easily managed than those who are born to the position. So monarchy is a great safeguard against the overweening ambitions and the total acquisition of power by elected politicians. I don't see anybody in a rush to get rid of any of the monarchies, so much as the desire to marginalize the royal families so that the politicians will have even more power. And I hope I'm answering the question, because it's too wide-ranging otherwise. Julie Howman says, Lady C, greetings to you and all at Castle Goring. To you too. Maybe I am naive, but having grown up in Africa and being of mixed heritage, I do feel that Meghan overplays the race card, and this whole visit to Nigeria will all end in tears. Already the Nigerian papers have mocked Harry by calling sorry. Sorry. By calling him the Duke of Duchess, while calling Meghan the Duchess of Sussex. Why can the government, courtiers and royal family not publicly distance themselves from these inherently hostile duo? They have committed treason against the king. They have maligned the British people and have nothing positive to say of the British nations. How much more must we endure before action is taken? Well, it looks as if quite a lot, doesn't it? I do think that the odd judicious reminder done in not necessarily through Buckingham Palace, but done through the diplomatic service might actually, or through the government, might actually be a way forward. The problem with the royal family and their advisors, and indeed most politicians is that they do not believe that something is of any consequence until it is reported in the mainstream media. And they go to great lengths to keep awkward subjects out of the mainstream media, because there is a symbiotic relationship between government, whether it is the president of a country or a royal family, which would represent the apex of the nation. There is a degree of symbiosis and collusion between the press and those powers that be. Hence why you have silence on certain subjects, because they all take the view, if it's not in the newspapers, if it's not on television, it doesn't matter. Notwithstanding the fact that other elements of the population, whether it be privately, publicly, or on the internet, actually are up in arms. It's a version of playing ostrich. It's also a way of managing information and the news. You know, will Meghan and Harry's Nigerian visit be a great success? You have indicated, and have other people, that already there is skepticism. And I'll tell you something that more than one person has contacted me to tell me, that Nigerians are very family orientated, and they do not approve of Meghan's treatment of her own family or of her husband's family. I've said it all along, her great and first mistake was the way she behaved towards her father. So it's not only that the Nigerians themselves are already skeptical of Meghan because of her public behaviour, it's because they are skeptical of her because of her private behaviour. Will the tour be spun as a success? To an extent, yes, but the reality is it suits the media to have conflict, to have contradiction, to have drama, to be able to say, it was a howling success, but it really wasn't. So let us watch and wait and see how things happen. But you know, it's not only the Nigerians that have skepticism about Meghan, because the Jamaicans did as well. I mean, she was roundly cold-shouldered at the after party at Terra Nova following the Bob Marley One Love premiere. And the things Jamaicans of colour said about her were, I can't repeat many of them, but you can take it from me that they did not approve of Meghan's, the way she has played the colour card. Let's put it that way. And you know, the Commonwealth is a huge institution. It is the largest institution on earth, possibly after the Catholic Church. I'm not sure which at this time is the larger of the two. But those are the two largest institutions on earth. And the reality is that people all over the Commonwealth are very family orientated. They also have a sense of honor. They have a sense of decency. They have self-respect. The average person may not have a lot of money, may have to struggle for their daily bread, but many of these people are truly noble. They have true self-respect. Their wealth is their dignity. Their wealth is their values. Their wealth is the principles by which they lead their lives and not only make sense of their lives, but turn base metal into gold and poverty into unseen riches. All of this can only be done with honor, decency, integrity, and values that are life-enhancing: love of family, respect for others. Nigeria is but one of many countries. Also, there are many countries in the Commonwealth that are Muslim, or they're not Christian, and they deeply deplore the behaviour of someone like Meghan, with her aggressive racial dialogue and her rampant feminism as she has climbed her way up the ladder, really through men. I mean, quite interesting that she's made the vertical climb horizontally, but there we go. So I think with all of that going on, the trip will most likely at best be a mixed success, and it will be interesting to see what happens. But I really do not think that Meghan and Harry's ambitions, which are really Meghan's ambitions, are going to be realised in terms of the Commonwealth. I mean, first of all, he's not a head of state, so how's he going to become head of the Commonwealth? I mean, there's a delusional element to all of this, but they are deluded. So, Cato says, the royal Danish couple just had a daughter born by surrogacy a few days ago. Yes. Prince Gustav of Wittgenstein, who is the son of the Danish princess Benedicta, and his wife, Carina Axelson, they had a son about 2 years ago by surrogate, and now they have just recently had a daughter. It's wonderful. They have not pretended. Of course, he is the head of his house. He is the constitutional head of a state within the German Confederation. He has constitutional rights. So his situation would be quite different from, say, an English prince who decided he wanted to have children by a surrogate. That would cause problems that this doesn't cause. And also, Gustav Wittgenstein had to wait until his father died and he succeeded to the principate. before he could marry his long-standing girlfriend, Karina Axelson. And now they have very resourcefully gone about completing their family in their 50s. That's a true love story. And they have done it without fuss, without unseemly behaviour, honestly, straightforwardly, and admirably. Do you think there are lessons to be learned from this? I do. Donna Hill says, Dear Lady C, I started reading your book about the Queen Mother, and the part about the mystery, questions, and conflicting information surrounding her birth made me wonder if Queen Elizabeth II might have been sympathetic to Harry and Meghan's possible need of help in having a child, much like her grandparents allegedly did, especially since the surrogate style of arrangement wasn't that uncommon within their social class at the time, according to your book. Could the Queen have turned a blind eye to the situation because of it? Or perhaps have been threatened in a blackmail scenario by Harry and Meghan to let that long-held family secret out if she didn't go along with it? What do you think? Donna Hill, thank you very much for your question. I think I need to make one or two matters clearer. I did not actually in my book say that it was not uncommon at that time. It was pretty uncommon even then. So I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it was pretty uncommon. That's the first thing. The second thing is that for legal reasons, I am not now, nor have I ever asserted that Harry and Meghan's children were born by surrogate. I'm very attached to my money, and I intend to remain having it very attached to me. So that, I think, is a point that needs to be made. Insofar as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's birth, and that of her younger brother David are concerned, this was what the Duke of Windsor said. I also have it from well-placed authority in Scotland, friends of mine who are friendly with the son of the doctor to whom Lord Strathmore, on his deathbed, asserted that he was very pleased that he and Celia had managed to have Elizabeth and David by the means they did. This is a story that has been around in royal circles for nearly a century, most likely over a century. Well, maybe not, because Elizabeth married Bertie in 1923, and this is 2024. And the circumstances surrounding her birth did not receive a wide coinage until the abdication, when David came to realize that Elizabeth was the architect with Cosmo Gordon Lang of easing him off his throne, at which point he broadcast the matter far and wide, but only within his circle, that is, royal circles. I never discussed this with the Queen, so I really cannot tell you with any definitive certainty what her true opinion was. But my understanding is that whether she believed that there was any possibility that the rumour was true or not, the posture she adopted was, there goes Uncle David, being mean about Mummy, dismissing it out of hand. Interesting that Meghan, who shares the birth date of the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, because they were both born on the 4th of August, the speculation would revisit someone else born on the 4th of August. It has to be said that Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, didn't help matters by coming up with about 14 different versions of when, where, why, and how she was born. She couldn't get her story straight, maybe deliberately, because maybe she really did think that there was enough to it, that confusion would provide some element of doubt, while clarity would remove all doubt. But I don't think it mattered greatly to any of them, because Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon was born the legitimate daughter of Lord and Lady Glamis, who became the Earl and Countess of Strathmore. As Tsar Alexander II said, when he wanted to marry Princess Marie of Hesse and was informed that her father was not the Grand Duke of Hesse, but was her mother's lover, he said, "Is she in the Almanach de Gotha?" Meaning as the legitimate daughter of the Grand Duke of Hesse. Having been told yes, he said, that's all that counts. Paperwork, ultimately, official status, is what counted then and still counts. Would that, big if, and I need to be very careful to actually make the point that this is pure speculation. As I said, I'm very attached to my money, and I intend that it remains attached to me. Let me rephrase that. Undoubtedly, the late Queen at some point, and I'm not prepared to say when I think the point was, but certainly at some point she became aware of the stories circulating about the birth of Archie in particular, first, obviously. Nobody at first believed that any of those stories was anything but the crazies on the internet, having wild speculations that were easily discounted because the whole situation was so incredible as to be truly unbelievable and should not be believed. It is the persistence and the endless photographs and the endless anomalies, none of which were put to bed initially, which have allowed the story to grow and grow and gain traction. But it has been studiously ignored at mainstream media level. As I said earlier, until something hits the mainstream media, the newspapers and the television channels in a big way, everybody acts as if it doesn't exist. And until it exists, it shouldn't be dealt with, because it's opening up Pandora's box. It's giving credence to something that, if you ignore it, it will hopefully, fingers crossed, go away. I do not think that there needed to be any threats of blackmail by any of the parties involved for everybody concerned to see the potential for harm if the story should turn out to be true. And I certainly don't think that Queen Elizabeth II would have for a nanosecond thought that, oh well, it happened with my grandparents and that we got away with it then. Let's try to get away with it now. That's not the way she thought. That the woman was as honest as the day was long. She was also, of course, very pragmatic and very politically astute and very experienced. And she will have understood, as everybody with any brains who has any awareness of how great families conduct themselves, she will have understood unless this explodes in the mainstream media, it is best to ignore it. I don't think any blackmail needed to be employed. This is speculative because, as I say, I did not discuss the matter with the late Queen. But she certainly knew that I had concerns about it. And it did not prevent her from having my name associated with hers in connection to her 95th birthday celebrations and her jubilee. And remember, in my first version of Meghan and Harry, the real story, I actually touch upon the issue. So it's there in black and white years before I then, with her knowledge, consent, and approval, became involved in matters of which she was the head of state. So I think if you look at it like that, you can see that it's a hot potato that no family of any eminence would want to have drop in their lap, because it can burn them. And my take on it privately is that, and I think I speak with some experience of how these matters work. As long as there is no need to prove something, they're not going to try to disprove it. I personally think that's a mistake, but I understand why this is being dealt with the way it is being. Candice Robertson says, what I found so strange about Meghan's behavior, what I found so strange about Meghan, no apostrophe, post-pregnancy with Archie, is that in her first appearance with the baby and Harry, her face was very bloated and swollen, and it wasn't at all during the pregnancy, which is the opposite of how pregnancy usually manifests. Well, Candice Robertson, you're absolutely right. But you need to remember that Meghan is unique. She isn't like everybody else. She's not like other women. No, she's not. She could get down on her haunches in high heels, legs tightly together, knees glued, at 8 months pregnant, without any assistance, and bounce right back up, notwithstanding the center of gravity of a woman of that far gone in pregnancy would make it very difficult, but not for Meghan, not at all. And so, is it surprising? Well, let me put it this way. By the time Archie was born, there was sufficient speculation on the internet that something was worth questioning and that people should question it, including the observation made that Meghan had gone through her pregnancy up to the very last part of it without ostensibly gaining a pound. And then she retired for a few weeks and gained weight. Well, Kimberly Smith has a theory, and it's summarized in one word: steroids. And Kimberly Smith isn't the only person who has come to that conclusion. Whether it is accurate or not is a matter that is up to each person to consider. And I need to say that for legal reasons. As I have said, I'm very attached to my money, and I intend it to remain attached to me. So I'm giving nobody any rope for them to hang me with it. Oh no, I'm not stupid. And Lucy says, yes, this is exactly what I believe. I think she took hormones to either be able to breastfeed or to give her face a puffy appearance So she finally looked like she'd been pregnant, because she may have heard it being discussed on social media that her face and body weren't looking like a woman who was pregnant, apart from the moon bump. Yes, Lucy. Yes. Not, of course, that I am for a second suggesting that Meghan wasn't authentically pregnant. No, I would never suggest any such thing, because aside from anything else, I wouldn't be opening myself up to any legal action. So, having said that, may I agree that her weight gain showed how unique she is. But then Meghan is unique. You know, why would she need to perform the way every other woman on earth who was pregnant, within reason, has performed? She is unique. She is special. She doesn't need to perform the way they perform. Well, of course, we all know that both Meghan and Harry assiduously follow social media, so they will have been aware of the fact that questions were being asked on social media. Did she take steroids, or did she gain weight naturally? It's not for me to speculate, but it's up to you to believe whatever your reason and common sense tell you are the facts. Sheila Peroni says, Dear Lady C, question for you if that's all right. You have given your opinion or advice on how the royal family and advisors should handle Meghan and Harry. You've now mentioned their pseudo-royal visits or tours of Jamaica, Canada, and soon Nigeria. I knew this was bad. I knew what they were trying to advise right away, regardless of the outcome. How would you handle this mess, or what advice would you give Camilla if you were having lunch with her, or with William and Catherine? Lots of love. Much love to you. Sheila Peroni, it's always difficult when you're advising people to go off things as they appear to be. I never actually give advice. Whenever friends of mine ask me for advice, I say I will give you my opinion based upon the knowledge I possess, with the rider that 9 times out of 10, when people are asking for your advice, they will neglect to provide you with the one pertinent piece of information that would make the advice you are rendering not only obsolete and inadequate, but possibly dangerous. I always make that point when I'm giving advice, because 9 times out of 10, people do, whether they're embarrassed or they think you're going to think badly of them, or they're feeling guilty, or they've forgotten, or it wasn't important to them, and therefore they don't bother to mention a pertinent fact that could actually change the whole advice that you give. So, having said all of that, anything I say now is doubtless going to, unless it were a miracle, be a redundancy, because anything I would say in answer to this question would not be what I would say after I had grilled Camilla, William, and Catherine, sorry, to find out exactly how the land truly lies, insofar as they know it. And remember, nobody ever knows 100% of anything. But taking all of that into account, I'll tell you what I would do right now if I were the Queen. I would find a way of drawing a line by making it far more apparent than they are making it that Meghan and Harry are totally on their own, that they do not represent the monarchy or the royal family, and I would make it absolutely clear that I do not approve or collude with or accept many of the accusations that they have made. How I would do it, what particularly I would do, is another matter altogether. But I would be ring fencing. I've learnt in life you need to ring fence. And you need to be truthful, accurate, measured, and definite. Opacity in adversarial situations is not always in the interest of the person who is being attacked. Because as the late Sir Desmond de Silva, who was one of our most eminent barristers, and if I remember correctly, he's the one who tried Charles Taylor for human rights violations. As Desmond used to say, shine the bright light of exposure in the dark corners. People who are doing dirty deals don't want to be exposed. And the lesson I have learned as a result, especially of the way I was treated in my 20s by my ex-husband and his brother, and then I was dumb enough in my 40s to not go hammer and tongs after him. But then I ultimately did, is you need to, in a dignified way, you need to hammer home and protect yourself. And how do you do that? Decently, honestly, succinctly, with as few words as possible, and definitely. So I hope that answers the question. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and the comments coming in. I think next week we're going to have some entertainment, because we're going to have Nigerian toddy in Nigeria. And actually, before signing off, I'm going to make a point that one or two people have made. Is Meghan Thomas Markle's actual natural daughter? I ask the question because if Meghan is 43% Nigerian, the likelihood is that her father is not Caucasian, because her mother is indubitably, unless there is a Meghan way of doing mathematics and simple arithmetic no longer is 2 and 2 makes 4. Her mother isn't 86% Nigerian. So if Meghan is 43% Nigerian, who is her father? I am not for a second going to imply that I believe that Meghan is not Thomas Markle's daughter, but people have made the point, and it is a very valid point to have made, that the math doesn't add up. And if Meghan is truly 43% Nigerian, as she has claimed to be, now we all know Meghan and the truth are not necessarily the easiest of bedfellows, and she certainly doesn't look 43% Nigerian. I'm Jamaican, and I come from a world where there are all sorts of mixtures, and I have to tell you, nobody who's practically a mulatto looks as white as Meghan does. Nobody. So that, I would have said right there, is Meghan being fanciful. However, if she's not being fanciful, people do have a point. Who is the daddy? Because the daddy can't be Caucasian. Interesting, no? The tangled web we weave when we set out to deceive, or when we seek to make claims that are not justifiable. Oh dear, don't we trip ourselves up? And on that note, I'll say Godspeed, bye-bye. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you like to share, like, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. God bless. Bye-bye.